Good afternoon. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and I'm just going to, it's Friday afternoon. This is our Friday afternoon price action chart lesson. I'm going to do something a little different today. I'm just going to talk a little bit, and I may show you a few little things here on the chart that I look for and the way I kind of set my chart up. We've talked about those before, but they seem to help people, so I'll probably do that. But I wanted to just say a few things today about this market. I continue to get a lot of emails about people having a hard time trading this market. Well, I'm just going to be honest with you. This is a hard market to trade, and the market is not acting normal. And I'm not a financial analyst. I follow the news in the morning. What I normally do is when I get up first thing in the morning, I'll turn the TV on, put it on Bloomberg, just to see what the futures have done during the overnight. And I'll leave that going while I'm getting ready to head to the office. And but other than that, that's really all I do. And sometimes I'll listen to CNBC on the radio on the way to the office. I usually drop my youngest kid off at school on the way, and as soon as I drop her off, I'll turn it over to CNBC, and I'll listen to that on the way to the office, just to see what's going on again in the markets. I don't pay much attention to it. I do not trade the news in any way, and in fact, I have a news guard that I keep open on my computer when I'm trading, and if there's any kind of news coming out that's major news that affects the market, I will be out of the market at least 15 to 20 minutes. Usually I like to be out at least 15 minutes before that news is coming out. And I usually, if it does affect the market and the market gets kind of wild, I'll usually wait until it settles back down before I'll trade it again. I know there are some people that trade the news and they make money, and that's great, but I've never been, the news has only cost me money, so I don't like it. I don't like to be in the market because it's unpredictable, and I like to have the odds on my side, and I like to have predictability, and so I don't like trading the markets during the news. So, but anyway, again, what I'm getting at is I'm not a financial whiz. I don't keep up with the news. I don't know a whole lot about that kind of stuff. All I know is how to read a chart and trade price action to do what I need to do to make money in the markets. And so I'm just clarifying that before I tell you what I'm going to tell you here. And but my personal opinion is that the problems in Europe are really affecting this market. And you can see we've been in this trading range forever, and we were in a lower trading range before that. As you can see across here, you see there's just no real trend. And look how flat, really, since January the 3rd, we opened up around the 1270 to 1280 area. And here we are on January the 6th, still trading in that same area. They come across here. Here we are on January the 10th, still trading in this same general area. We did have some movement on that date. We moved higher, but then it just kind of trickled back down right into the 1280 area. And look where we're at. We've actually gotten the ranges increased a little bit. It's gotten up close to the 1300 area. That was pretty much been holding us back right across there for the last few days. But you see back down here, yesterday afternoon, right where we at, right in that same 1270, 1280 area. So since January 1st, this market has gone nowhere. Doesn't mean you couldn't make money, but there's no strong trend. The market trends up, then it trends down. It trends up and it trends down, and it stays in this range. It's really, a 15 to 20 point range, and we just haven't been able to get out of it. And when the market is like that, it can be difficult to trade because you can't buy and hold. You definitely, you're looking to make a few points here on a trend up, and you're looking to make a few points on a trend back down, and that's how you trade that. And you find these support resistance areas like I usually do, and you look to find entries at those points, and then you can usually trade the trend on the way back up. But this is price action from today. Today's Friday. And as you can see, I'm going to show you how I draw my trend line. Now, prices would have been right in this area when I came into the office this morning. So all this was here during the overnight. And I always use the overnight I don't trade the overnight, and I know that there's wild fluctuations and things that are a little bit unnatural that happen then because the volume is so low. So I don't put a whole lot of emphasis in trading that, but that price action is still important, and it will tell you things. And I usually use it for my trend line. So when I came in this morning, I would have looked at this. Like I said, prices. Let's just do this. Well, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's make this a little bigger so everybody can see it. When I came in this morning, this is what I would have. I usually get here just before 8:30, around 8 o'clock or so, a little bit, sometime between 8 and 8:15. And that's what we would have seen this morning. So what I would have done, I would have just come in here and I would have drawn my trend line where I got the best fit. Actually, let's get a ray so it continues on. And that would have been probably right through there. So yeah, we had some breaks above it, but like I said, this is during the overnight, so I don't put much attention. I don't pay much attention to that. What I'm looking for is just to get the general trend line, and you can see that's pretty much held prices right there for the most part. So that's how I would have got my trend line, and let's see how that worked out. And you can see that worked out perfectly. Here's your first break, 2 legs down to a new low, and lo and behold, the market reverses and starts trending higher. And that's our basic trend line rule that I teach, is to follow these trend lines. Now here's another trick. Sometimes if this is confusing for you up here, what I will do is I'll come down here and I'll get my line, and I might draw it right down through there like that and say, okay, that looks like that's holding prices. Then I'll copy that, because sometimes it's easier to find the other side first. I'll paste it and I'll draw that up there. And you might have got, I probably would have put it right there. And you see that trend line's a little bit different, but you still get the same basic effect. This just shows you your trend lines don't have to be perfect. The first one I drew, I think, was perfect. But this one gives you the same thing. You had this trend line down through here. You had the break right here, 2 legs down to a new low, and then the market reverse. So, your trend lines don't have to be perfect. But that's how sometimes I'll do it. And what you might have done is, a lot of times I'll take it and I'll draw it off of these 2 lows like that. And let's see what that one looks like if you copy that one. Because it usually works best if you can find the actual 2 good swings, and that's 2 good swings. So let's put that one in place. And look, that's exactly what I had this morning, drawing it the way I draw my line. And you see, that's perfect. That is, so, there's different ways to get your trend line. And so don't hesitate to draw your lines. And you could have come off this one right here and drawn it down across there and still copied that and brought it up. And look at there, you still get your trend line. There's your break, 2 legs down to a new low, and then the market reversed. And let's just, let's do this the other way. But these trend lines are important because they're your clue to know whether to stay with a trend and when to be looking for a reversal. So if you get this trend line here, let's just try drawing it off the highs up here. We draw that off the highs. There it is. Copy it, paste, drag it down here, and look at there. There's your trend line. So that was a nice little channel right there. We broke it right here. Came down, we made a couple legs down, and then the market then it started trending higher again. So this was a short-term trend right here, but I bet you it still held to the trend line rules. There it is. You draw that trend line. We got a little break. We got a break right here, then came down and made a new low, and then the trend starts up again. So this is not a long-term trend line, but it's a short-term one, but it still held to the rules, even if you drew it like that right there. There's your break. It's really 2 legs down. It's not a 2 perfect legs, but it's 2 little swings down to a new low. And support held across here, and prices reversed, and the trend started up again. And so that's generally, the trend lines are important. So if you're not drawing your trend lines and you're supporting resistance lines, then you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. And let me show you this. This was kind of the support from the day before. Maybe you really probably would have had it right here. This was the support from Thursday. And you can see what happened. We traded down to that till today. This was right around the open, and it acted as support until it got through. And then once it got through, it acted as resistance. And you see it's acting as resistance again over here until we finally got back through. And late afternoon today, everything rallied back up before the close. So, but anyway, that's kind of how I do my come in and I look for my trend lines, and that's how I try to find them. And I try to find my support and resistance. And we talked the other day about using the highs and lows, the last closes. And you can see the closes were right about in here today. And if you look, well, you can't see that, but I probably would have had this right here at the start. That's where I had it yesterday. And you can see that it did, even though prices got a little higher, it still acted as resistance, and it turned prices and they sold off. Of course, this is the overnight again, so you know you're going to get some wilder swings. You know, a lot of times in the overnight, like right here, you see, even though this support was still holding here, they drove it a little lower because there's not as much volume, there's not as many people trading, but it did get back up in here. So learn to find your support and resistance and your trend lines, and that will help you. But going back, I'm going to close on this. Going back to the news once again. When big news items are coming out, especially like the FOMC reports and the housing reports and the employment reports, generally all those important reports will come out. The FOMC a lot of times will come out around 1, I think it's 1:15, 1:30 on in the afternoon. That's Central Standard Time, my time. So you want to be careful being in the markets during that. And you also want to be careful for most of the other important ones like the unemployment and the housing and the non-farm payrolls and things like that. Those all generally come out somewhere around 8:45 to 9:15 time, Central Standard Time. And so be aware of those coming out because they will whipsaw you and cost you. And I don't, like I said, I don't try to trade them. I'm not saying that you can't make money trading those reports, but I don't like them because they're unpredictable. The key to making money in my strategy is having an advantage and knowing the predictability of the market using those rules, and that's what we do with price action. And when you start trading the news, it's very unpredictable. You'll get generally what will happen if you were long right here, the news pops out, and all of a sudden the market shoots straight down, and it comes down here and it runs all these stops, and within 15 or 20 minutes later, it's trading right back in that same range again. And that's generally what will happen. And sometimes it'll come out and the news will pop and it'll go up. And then within 30 minutes or so, it generally always retraces all of that movement. And you end up right back where you started. And all they do, it runs stops and it gets the market excited and people start doing crazy things and they get emotional and the market just gets crazy for a little while. So I stay out of it, but that's my spill on the news. And again, I'm not a financial guy. I don't know, I don't claim to have any expertise there. I don't even watch the news very much. I listen to it again a little bit in the mornings when I turn on the TV just to see where the futures are and what happened during the overnight. And I like to see where the dollar's trading or gold and silver are trading. Those gold and silver are a couple of markets I watch and that I invest in. So I'm always interested in those. And then, again, I'll listen to the radio a little bit, but generally on CNBC, you listen to Rick arguing about, Rick seems like the only one that's got any sense, that seems to understand that the markets aren't near as good as all the financial gurus or economists or whatever you want to call them. They seem to think the market is, they're always coming out with these stories about how great things are, and he's always arguing with them that he doesn't believe them, and I tend to think Rick's on the right track. And again, I don't follow anything Rick says. I forget what his last name is, but anyway, you'll usually hear him on there arguing every morning around that time with whoever the guest economist is at that time, right as the markets are opening. But other than that, I don't watch the news, and I definitely don't trade off the news. And I definitely try not to let the news influence me. In fact, I think most people are better off not to listen to that stuff because it does influence you. Sometimes I'll listen to it and it'll get me to thinking, man, the market's probably going to sell off today, and then we'll have the biggest day ever. So, and that just reinforces it. Don't let the market influence you. Don't let the news influence you as how you're going to trade the market. The only thing that matters is what prices are doing and where they're heading. And if you use your support and resistance lines and your trend lines, you're going to know what it's going to give you the clue, just like this, putting this trend line right here on here. The clue, well, thing stuck. The clue that this thing was about to change was this break right here. You see we had this trend line coming down. You can see it was pretty much holding prices all the way down. And even on this break, sometimes these breaks will go just a few ticks. They're generally, you get a close outside the trend line just like this. Sometimes it might trade all the way back up to here. But before it's over, it generally will come back down and test and make a new low, or at least test that low and hold as a double bottom or some kind of strong support area, pretty much like right across here. This was really the support areas right here. We did get a break right here, but you see how it struggled all the way down, and then suddenly it reversed. It came back and tested it again right here. And when it held again, that was the clue. That's two tries to test that low. They both held, and that was the clue that prices were probably going to go higher, and you can see how they rallied all during the afternoon. So learn to watch this. Make sure you understand the rules on the double test. You know, if something tests something twice and it fails, it's probably going to do something different thereafter. You know, if you're going low and it tests something twice on the low, that's why double bottoms and double tops work so well. Just like right here, here's a double top that held, and it tried to go higher above that 1292.75 area twice, and it couldn't do it. And then the market sold off, and then you got down here. It tried. It actually did break this. It tested it a couple of times. It broke through, but it couldn't hold. It couldn't drive it lower, and then it reversed. And that's generally what the market does. But that's really why double tops and double bottoms, and this right here is just a broad double bottom, and you see what happened afterwards today. It just rallied on up. So just learn to draw your trend lines, your support and resistance. Pay attention to them. Even if you get a break on them, doesn't mean you couldn't trade that. There was a nice short setup right there, but you see how it struggled to go lower. It did go lower. But once you get this low on the day, unless you've got a really strong, which I would call that a really strong trend, but your clue, once again, was the break of the trend line coming down through here. When prices broke that trend line, and regardless of how you drew this line, you still should have seen that. There's pretty much the way I had it drawn. There's your break, and then you had your two legs down to a new low, which is generally what you'll see, and then the market rallied. And even on these short-term trends, you got your trend line right here. That was pretty much the trend line, I think. Generally, I'll draw them off the lows during the regular market. So there it is. But even if you drew it right here, you could tell when the trend was over. We broke it pretty hard right there. We went straight below the EMA. That's not a good sign. And the market trended lower. Then it reversed when it made this double bottom down here. So even on your short-term trends, you may not get the retest, but make sure you draw them. There's the short-term trend line right there. We broke it. We came back, make a new low, and we went higher. And on this one, we broke the trend line. And like I said, sometimes it'll go further down than you think it will. It came all the way back down to here. But then it rallied and went back. And you see what happened after it made this new high. There's two legs. There's a couple of legs up to a new high. They tried to sell it off right there, but they couldn't. There's just too much buying. And it continued to go higher. And this kind of buying right here, my guess is this is the big guy. Somebody knows something. And, you know, when you get this kind of movement, you know, it's generally the bigger players. The small retail traders can't move the market like that. And but back to my original start on this chart lesson, what I'm trying to tell you is that the market is just not normal right now. I mean, we've really been in a 10 or 15 point range since January 1st. And I think it's going to continue to do that. I think it's based on the problems in Europe. And, you know, the smart traders are leery. They're scared. They don't want to sell, but they don't want to buy. And it's just a real emotional market. The volume is low. So just be careful trading this market. Just don't look to buy and hold long term unless the thing starts trending strongly again. And your best bet is just to get in and out, and not to get married to any position. Just follow the price action. Use your trend lines and your support and resistance. get your little bit and go home and be happy until this thing starts moving again. And if it starts moving, and it may be years before it moves again, it may, it may finally, something may break in Europe and this thing might sell off like crazy and you might make $1 million on a few trades. It might move that much, but for now it's not moving. And it's hard to make money, and be careful, be aware of that. And again, I'm not a financial analyst. This is just all based on my, what I think's going on and what, based on my limited experience of trading and keeping up with the little bit of news I do. I just think we're in a tough time right now economically. The whole world is on the verge of collapsing, and if Europe goes, it's probably going to affect us in a big way. So just be aware of that. Be aware that the market is not trending normally. If there is a normal with the markets, it's just crazy right now, and there's just not much movement. So be careful with your trades. Don't get married to a position. If the market reverses, don't argue with it. Just reverse with it, and just go. If you go with the market, you're going to do a whole lot better. So this thing's gotten way too long. I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. Have a great extended weekend. Monday is Martin Luther King Day, so no trading on Monday. Our office will be closed, and we will see you probably on Tuesday. Thanks, and have a good one.